Alabama syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio, like the dude just said, we are indeed solid conservative and just plain right. Phil Williams here, Rightside Studios, doing local, state, and national, all the issues. Proud to say, day 2 of syndication. It is, what day is it? It's Tuesday, July the 12th. Copper's running the board. Hey, Miss Copper, how you doing? I barely caught myself. I don't know if you caught the stumble. I was like, hey, right side. Yeah, I'm getting used to it. I'm gonna get there. And also sitting here in the right side studio, Boomer's on the other mic. Boomer, how are you today, bud?
You know what? I can't complain at all. It's been a good day.
It wouldn't do you any good to complain anyway, man. We have a sign. Copper, you can't see it, but we have a sign on the wall here that says there's a $5 charge for whining in this studio. Just so you know. All right. Well, listen, Copper, get the triple dipper sound effect ready. For those of y'all that are joining us for the very first time or only here yesterday, because we just syndicated the show across another 25% of the state, I'd like to say. The first things we do is we talk about the show. We lay out what we call the triple dipper. That's the 3 themes or storylines we're going to run with for the day. Tell you what guests are calling in so you'll know. And lay it out pretty thick because we do a lot of planning. So number 1, you might want to know this at 3 o'clock today, top of the next hour. Justin Bogey, who's a fiscal analyst with the Alabama Policy Institute, a numbers guy. Used to work with the Heritage Foundation. Used to also work up in D.C. Used to also work at the Legislative Fiscal Office in Montgomery. Knows where all the money bones are buried. Anyway, Justin Bogey will be on with us at 3 p.m. We're going to be talking about some stuff going on with state pensions. Yeah, we need to know about this stuff. And then I got a whole bunch of stuff in the triple dipper. So Copper, hit it. That's right, the triple dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that we're going to run today's show on. Number 1, ESG is DOA. What did he just say? ESG, have you heard about this? It's the new liberal way of ranking the viability of a company, not on profitability, not on whether they produce the best widgets or services, but whether or not they are environmentally, socially, or governmentally considered to be woke enough. And ESG ratings, as far as I'm concerned, are DOA here in Alabama. We don't need them. They are absolutely breaking some companies, and they're bending the world economy in ways that don't need to be. So anyway, we're going to talk about that. Number 1, ESG is DOA. Number 2, I'm just calling it live free or die. It's time to talk about it. So here we have that most recent Supreme Court ruling that came out and basically laid it on pretty solid in behalf of the Second Amendment. The New York Rifle and Pistol Club won their long-standing lawsuit against the state of New York and proved at Supreme Court level that states cannot abridge the Second Amendment. However, the states have now begun going straight at it again. So we're going to talk about some things that are being done in regards to the Second Amendment. Live free or die, that's number 2 on the triple dipper. And then number 3, I'm calling it don't blame the farmers. What? Yes, don't blame the farmers. There are things happening right now in the supply chain. There are things happening right now in the cost of goods going farm to market. And I'm just telling you, those row crop farmers, those cattle farmers, it's not their fault that we're seeing some of what we're seeing right now in the grocery stores, in the food lines, in the supply chain. There are things happening on a worldwide scale right now that are boggling the mind, not the least of which is this concerted effort by woke globalists to ban certain types of fertilizers. And what is that is doing to farms and to nations, for that matter. We'll talk about that. Number 3 on the triple dipper, I'm calling it don't blame the farmers. But listen, for those of y'all that don't know, we always start the show, aside from telling you what's going to be in the show overall, with an opening monologue. I call it the right side way. And so that's going to happen right now. And just know that every show we start off this way, we spend a lot of time prepping. We spend a lot of time pulling together the resources for the show. You'll hear me rattle the paper every time I pull up an article, and I usually have somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 pages worth of resources for every single show. But I also write a monologue daily, and so here we go. I'll be honest with you. First of all, just know this. I'm a guy that likes consistency. And it's not that I'm scared of change. I mean, wow, let's look at the fact that I have now pivoted much of my life in my 50s to starting this new radio show gig. Really, Charlene and I both. And sometimes change can be good. Like, for instance, Charlene and I have been married for over 35 years. And until recently, we've always had a live Christmas tree every year. The smell of the pine, oh, the wonder of the live tree. And then there's also the cleaning of the pine needles, the endless wrestling to get it into the house, including that time that it fell off the car on the side of the highway trying to go home from picking it out. Once you get it in the house, then we had it fall over in the dark of night more than once, stringing up the lights. And oh, by the way, I hate seeing wires, and so no one ever wanted to take down the tree after Phil Williams put the lights on it. All tucked and tied and zipped and wrapped, and I'm pretty sure there were at least 2 to 3 years where we just threw away the Christmas tree with the lights still on it, but they looked good. So now we moved to a new house after 24 years in one location, and somewhere in the midst of that, we came to grips with change. I mean, like, while we were changing the whole house, why not just change to a store-bought artificial tree that already has lights on it? Voila! It was a revelation. I questioned myself soon thereafter as to why it only took 33 years of marital bliss and Christmas tree wrangling to get it there. Some change, yeah, some change can be good. But some change, not so much. I mean, I guess my deal is I'm not a fan of what I would call unsolicited change for the sake of change. You know the deal. The kind of change where someone had a good idea and just knew that everyone really needed to benefit from their good idea. In the Army, we used to call those guys the good idea fairies. They would wisp through the room with all the best stuff on a gee-whiz PowerPoint slide, sprinkle some good idea fairy dust over everything, and the next thing you know, shazam! We're all experiencing change for the sake of change, and the good idea fairy gets a bullet point on his next evaluation report. Like this morning. I woke up this morning to find that my phone went through some kind of an update overnight. Did I ask for an update? No. Did it work well before the update? Yes. Did it work the same after the update? No, not at all. After several minutes of trying to switch screens, I finally discovered, without explanation, that what for years has been an up and down motion on the screen is now considered a finger swipe from right to left. Why? Why was this needed? Why was it necessary to do so without explanation? Because the good idea fairy said so, I guess. Well, that's actually a private sector move for an unsolicited change. But right now, though, and here's where I switch gears on you, right now we're seeing a move by the public sector, the government, to push for changes that are literally for the sake of changes, and they are crushing us. It's one thing to have your smartphone needlessly reconfigured, right, in the dark of night. It's quite another to have a whole sector of the world economic structure altered because some high-browed evil twin of the usual good idea fairies believe they've got a better way. Take, for instance, the sudden overtaking of world agriculture and agribusiness by the sudden and apparent notion that long-standing use of certain fertilizers are bad. They cause global warming, they create hazards, or something deadlier, I'm sure, so now we're told. Well, the same people that tell us to eat fake meat because cow flatulence is destroying the ozone have decided it's no longer feasible to use nitrogen-based fertilizers. Whole governments, to include the U.S. government under the Biden administration, have bought into this concept as a means of achieving some new ends in the Green New Deal era, and it is wreaking havoc. Complete havoc. In the past few days, such government orders have caused such social and political upheaval in Sri Lanka that the government literally just fell. Literally, look it up, Sri Lanka. The same government that was touted 2 years ago by the liberal globalists at the World Economic Forum as being some kind of world leader for change made the World Economic Forum so happy with such change, and the people literally this week burned down the government. No kidding. Why? Because farms were shutting down, inflation was soaring, people were going hungry, and when those kind of things happen, guess what? Civil unrest results in change maybe the government didn't expect. So right now, as we speak, similar practices are being protested on a national scale in the Netherlands. Farmers are literally shutting down the economy in protest, all because someone had a neat idea. A neat idea, by the way, that President Joe Biden agrees with, which is why he signed an executive order to push the U.S. towards some similar policies. Ask any farmer right now what it's like in the Biden era to get fertilizer. And when they do tell you an answer, ask them also how much it costs. Farms are going under because of the good idea fairies up in D.C. But it doesn't stop there. Let me give you another opportunity to think this through. How about world economics? Have you heard about ESG scores? ESG, environmental, social, and governance scores. Oh yeah, that really good idea that also came out of the good idea fairies at the World Economic Forum. Have you wondered why so many corporations are going woke? Why soft drink companies care about voting integrity bills, why Disney wants to promote transgender sexualism to kindergartners, or why investment bankers give money to Black Lives Matter? It's because they've been convinced that their role is no longer to ensure a quality product or a service and to maximize corporate profitability on behalf of their shareholders. Fiduciary duties to investors. I mean, what a silly concept, right? ESG scores signal to the world that regardless of whether or not the company is making a profit or treating its employees well or providing a product or a service that resonates with consumers, that the company is woke enough. And with recent woke trends in investment banking and investment portfolios, if a company doesn't report its ESG score, it may not get the best interest rate on its loan refinance now, or be included in a public sector retirement plan investment portfolio. So go woke or go broke in the world of modern corporate America. Now, in order to get a higher ESG score, it's necessary for the men and women in the boardrooms to make decisions not about what the mission of the company was established for, but for the more important and surely sustainable, but rather through the lens of environmental, Green New Deal, social justice, governmental, anti-conservative policies. And it's making an impact, and not an impact for the better. It's a change being thrust on us, and we never saw it coming because some good idea fairy had a great new way of doing things. I could go on. The push for green energy, and now the gas pumps are paid for. The mandate for vaccine compliance, and now we have 60,000 service members axed from the National Guard and Reserve. A demand for social justice when the Supreme Court says no, resulting in an assassination attempt on a Supreme Court justice. These good idea fairies, they have got to stop. And the only way that happens, by the way, is if we vote, and if we act, and if we rally as conservatives while we still can. Whether it be in our local, state, or federal elected officials and their jobs, it is absolutely necessary that conservatives return to being sheepdogs and not sheep. Because if we don't, then the good idea fairies are going to continue to destroy life as we know it, love it, and actually need it. Why? Simply because they can. Because they can make change for the sake of change. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Well, there you have it, day 2 syndication, Rightside Way monologue. Do those every single day, and that just requires just putting pen to paper, so to speak. But it's something I enjoy doing. Listen, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. More of that. We'll be right back. News Talk. That's right. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader right here, Rightside Radio, spanning north of south of Birmingham, north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa to Gadsden. We're all over the state right now. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. And glad you guys are with us. So we are literally sitting in the new Rightside studio. And I got to tell you, there's a ton of stuff on our website. So let me just tell you about that real quick. Boomer's nervous because I'm pointing people to a website. He's currently working on it right now, and what's crazy is we are actually testing the video streaming. That's going on even as I speak. So apparently now I actually have to actually get dressed every day for radio. I can't do it in my pajamas anymore, is what we're telling me. All right. Okay. You laugh, Copper. Don't be laughing in the microphone like that. I hear you chortling over there. It's okay. This is where Charlene would say, "I love you in spite of yourself." That's what she would say. All right. But hey, listen, tons of stuff on the rightsideradio.org website. So a lot of stuff. When I say that, I'm serious. Like for instance, there's things like the Right Side store. You want to order Right Side coffee mugs, T-shirts, stickers, Right Side socks, because everybody needs Right Side socks. Those are a major deal with me. My family laughs, but I like Right Side socks. And then on top of the Right Side store, you got other things like, just the photo gallery, the descriptions of the show and who we are and what we do, the things that we've written. Lots of stuff is on there. But here's the other piece. This is what a lot of people use. Because right now, here we are broadcasting literally over half the state of Alabama. But before that, if you were outside of the overly broad range of our AM/FM capability out of the Huntsville market, then people had to live stream the show, which is cool, because all you had to do in the big wide world, go to the World Wide Web, go to rightsideradio.org, and click on the Listen Live option. And like I always said, no matter where you is, there we is. So yeah, kind of cool. But that's why we have listeners from all over the place, people that call in from out of state. I know for a fact we had a guy that just not long ago called us from vacation in North Carolina. How cool is that? The other piece on the website, as I do these shameless plugs for our website, is the fact that we've got podcasting going bananas right now. So I know that Birdman is listening. Birdman, I got to see some stats sometime soon and see where we are in terms of our podcasting elements. But we are well over 62,000 downloads of the podcast right now. Every single day, Copper takes a show. She breaks it down into pieces, puts it out there where Birdman can get it. He uploads into virtually every podcast forum known to man. And right now, 62,000 plus downloads. What's interesting, though, and I always have to say this because I want to make sure I shout out to my folks in California, is that our second biggest audience is California. Like 670 people or something download us in California. Hello, California. We love you. Hang on. We're going to keep working. Conservatism is going to be back one day in California. I feel it. That's the land of Reagan, so it's got to be. All right, listen. Rightside Radio. We live to be solid, conservative, and just plain right. But I'm just going to tell you, man, every single day I come on this show, and let me just clue you in. I said a little bit of this yesterday, but I'll repeat it now. What I call the mission and the message. And the mission is that every single day we're going to come on here with the principles of conservatism, and we're going to do what I call the 4 E's. We're going to enlighten, empower, educate, and entertain you. I'm hoping that every single day you leave this show with the sense that you gained a little something from it, that you can walk away from and say, I'm a conservative because it's important that we not just be able to speak what we believe, but why we believe. Because the last thing you want to be able to have happen to you is you're, at the water cooler having a conversation and someone says, well, why would you do that? Why would you vote for that bill? Why would you like that person who's running for office? Well, let me tell you, and that's good stuff when suddenly you realize you're armed beyond the basic conversation. But that's the mission, the 4 E's. But the message is the most important part. If you gain from this show, let it be because the message stayed consistent. The message is conservatism, and there's 4 things built into that I can say easily and without equivocation that Jesus is Lord, America is great, Alabama is beautiful, and life is worth living. And I believe that with all my heart. I love this place, I love this country, and I do love my God, and I don't have any problem saying any of the above. And I do believe that, by the way, even when things are going bad, this show is not going to be a gripe session. It's going to be a show where we point out things that are wrong, but we talk about how to make them right. That's one of the reasons why it's called Rightside Radio. I ain't kidding. I ain't kidding. So if you hung around this show long enough, you know that I typically come in resourced for the discussion. You're welcome to call in and disagree. Just be prepared for the conversation. And every once in a while, though, I have somebody call in and they give me a point or a thought, or for that matter, just a phraseology that I hadn't even thought of yet. And I like that. I like the dialogue. So we take a lot of calls on this show, and we'll be doing that throughout the day, even today. Coming up soon, by the way, we'll be announcing very soon we have our own 800 number. And I won't put it out there just yet. Just know that it does end with the phrase "go right," or is it "be right"? 6-8 right. That's right. That's what it is. It's right. So yeah, we're gonna have our own 800 number. So those of y'all that are used to calling us from where we've been for the last year in the Huntsville market, it's gonna change. New number. Boomer answering the phones, and we'll have you a new number here in the next few days. Don't want to overwhelm with technology too soon. Just want to get on the air first. All right, well, I know we're headed to a break right now. We're going to come back in this next segment. It's number 1 of the Triple Dipper. I'm calling it ESG as DOA. What is an ESG score? Why are our retirement plans being built on companies that are about environmental and social and governance? I thought they were about profitability, right? Well, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, that stuff should be DOA. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right, blowing it out right now across all of North Alabama. And by the way, there are two folks who caught on a moment ago. They know. So first of all, Chad from Huntsville, I know you're listening. David from Huntsville, I know you're also listening. No, I have not been broadcasting naked up to this point. That has not been happening. I do not appreciate the assertion. No, anyway, I said jammies, or pajamas. Whatever. Bottom line is I got clothes on every day in studio. I got witnesses going to test. Rightside Radio coming in without clothes. Anyway, all right, enough of that. All right, so yeah, Boomer, just no more comments from you. You just stay where you are. All right, listen, hey, number one of the Triple Dipper. ESG is DOA is what I'm calling it. It's maybe it's the military side of me. Acronyms, people love acronyms, but acronyms, what are these things? ESG, what am I talking about? Environmental, social, and governance. If you haven't heard about this, there's this new thing going on right now, and to me it's pretty egregious. Because keep in mind that when you see a corporation, you're looking at a corporation that is designed for the sole purpose of creating a better product or service for the sole purpose, again, of profitability on behalf of its investors or shareholders. Period. That's it. It's not rocket science. It's basic economics. You don't start a company. I mean, maybe you start a nonprofit. Maybe you start, something that is designed to be there for a purpose other than production. But when you have a private industry in a free market and they are there for the purpose of, building the better widget, if you will, or providing a better quality service, well then, okay, do that. And oh, by the way, you're doing it because, especially those publicly traded companies or those that have shareholders, you're doing it for the purpose of profitability. No, not today, because the World Economic Forum, in conjunction with the leaders of BlackRock, that'd be a guy named Larry Fink, Schwab at World Economic Forum, Fink over at BlackRock, and a number of their other globalist elites have come up with this new thing called ESG scores. I say new, it's been around a few years, but it gained great dominance now in the last couple of years, especially since the Biden administration took office, because they now feel empowered to do all the things they've always dreamed of doing. And oh, by the way, now they're also recognizing how badly the Biden administration is doing, and there's an air of desperation. So ESG scores, they've been everything for a while, and I'm hoping they're going to be DOA here pretty soon. I say that because they are not about profitability. An ESG score, used to be if you went, as a company, if you went down to the bank and you sought a business line of credit, or you're going to get a loan for that new capital infusion, or you're going to do something to reinvest in your own company and you've got to have bank credit to do it, what would you show them? You show them your books. You show them the finances. If you were an investment hedge fund manager, or if you were a portfolio manager, like I'm just going to name one. Well, I'll tell you what, I won't. But you know what I'm talking about. The kind of companies that manage your retirement accounts. Wouldn't you think that their job would be to maximize you for retirement, to maximize your investments? Yeah. But a lot of them these days are getting stuck in the notion they have to provide the best ESG score, and that has become quite the distraction to their ability to be profitable. So an ESG score is environmental, social, and governance. You look this up, it is everywhere. And oh, by the way, they tout it. It's not just them literally, in the background, ESG scores. We don't talk about this, but we kind of do this in the back. No, They brag about it because they need for the globalists to know what they're up to. They need for it to be out there. You find like Coca-Cola, go to their website. You'll find them bragging about their ESG score. Delta Airlines, you'll find them bragging about their ESG score. Disney, you'll find them bragging about their ESG score. What it basically means is they've gone woke. They are literally enacting policies whose sole purpose is to show how woke they are. Hey, we gave lots of money to Black Lives Matter. Don't you like us now? Hey, Coca-Cola, we do not like the Georgia voter integrity laws. We think that's bad. you're a soft drink company. Why are you doing this? Well, we just need to make sure that people understand that our ESG scores show that we care about governance. Really? You make soft drinks. Delta Airlines. Well, we believe that carbon offsets are important, so we will be planting more trees to help offset the amount of flights that we pursue on behalf of our paying customers. Okay. As long as you can continue to, get me to my airport on time, I guess you can go plant a tree if you want to. But you know what? The reality is this. If you're investing in a company, don't you want to know that your return on your investment is going to be about more than just, I don't know, did they plant a tree? Did they support an activist group? Did they go for transgender rights in kindergarten's curriculum? Did they, whatever. Well, that's what we're seeing right now. Here's an inconvenient truth, though. Here's an article that I pulled. This one's from Harvard Business Review. Sounds very highbrow. It's not like I sit around reading Harvard Business Review, just so you know. But Harvard Business Review, though, had a great article about this, dated March 31st of this year, so pretty recent. The title of it is An Inconvenient Truth About This ESG Investing. It says, as of December 2021, assets under management at globally exchanged sustainable funds that publicly set in ESG, I'm not going to try to say it every time, okay, I will, environmental, social, and governance investment objective. In other words, ESG companies. So assets at global exchange-traded sustainable funds that have ESG objectives worldwide amounts to more than $2.7 trillion. 81% were European, 13% were in U.S.-based funds. In the fourth quarter of 2021 alone, $143 billion in new capital flowed into these ESG funds. And by the way, these are not obscure funds only for the elites. These are funds that sometimes they're like teachers' retirement funds in certain states. It's amazing. But here's the deal. How have the investors fared? Asked the Harvard Business Review author. Not that well. ESG funds, it says, certainly perform poorly in financial terms. University of Chicago researchers analyzed Morningstar's sustainability ratings. Morningstar, one of the rating agencies in this. Says although the highest rated funds in terms of sustainability certainly attracted more capital than the lowest rated funds, none of the high sustainability funds outperformed the lowest rated funds. In other words, they bragged on their ESG scores, they attracted more people to invest in them, but in reality, they didn't have any better scores than the lower ranking companies did. Says that result might be expected. It's possible that investors, they might be happy to sacrifice their financial returns in exchange for a better ESG performance. Unfortunately, though, ESG funds, it says, don't seem to deliver better ESG performance ever, either. What? Pray tell, what can that mean? Well, it's because of this. There's no consistency in how these rates assign their ESG scores. I mean, it's a scam. They don't have the ability to tell you why your ESG score is what it is here versus if another rating agency did it, because they all have their own subjectivity, their own biases, and they apply those in their ratings. One of them might lean heavier towards environmental and green energy policies. One of them might lean harder towards social, and they want to know how you feel about transgender rights. They want to know how you feel about DeSantis's, laws against grooming kindergartners. And so these ESG scores, they don't necessarily tell you whether they really are an environmentally, socially, and governmentally friendly woke company. And they certainly don't tell you that they're profitable. It goes on from there, though. This study is pretty significant. It says, literally, a recent European Corporate Governance Institute paper compared ESG scores of companies invested in by 684 U.S. institutional investors. By institutional investors, you can imagine they are common, they are well known in the industry. They may have your retirement plan, by the way. All these institutional investors had signed on to the United Nations Principles of Responsible Investment. Oh, good. The UN's here now, too. And 6,481 institutional investors that did not sign the PRI were in the study also. They did not detect any improvement in the ESG scores of those who had signed on to the United Nations Principles of Responsible Investment. In other words, it didn't matter. It was virtue signaling. It's a farce. It's the ability for a company to look like they're doing something neat. And hey, stand with us. We stand with you. We're for you, LGBTQ plus. We're for you, Black Lives Matter. We're for you, Green New Deal. In the reality, not so much. Here's the kicker. Now I'll finish up with this article and go to a break here in a moment. There's also some evidence that says in this article that some companies publicly embrace ESG as a cover for their poor business performance. Ha! There you go. Says a recent paper by Ryan Flugum of the University of Northern Iowa and Matthew Souther of the University of South Carolina reported that when managers underperformed the earnings expectations, then they turned around and touted their ESG scores. But when they exceeded earning expectations, then they made few, if any, public statements about ESG. Hence, sustainable fund managers who direct their investments to companies publicly embracing ESGs may be overinvesting in financially underperforming companies. What it basically boils down to is this. It's a woke farce. It's an opportunity for them to look like they're virtue signaling in such a way that they can get the loan they want to do the things they want to do as a company. Meanwhile, what about that old fiduciary obligation they have to their investors? Because, yeah, that's a thing. Tell you what, lawyer Phil is going to kick in on that one here in a moment. Let's go to a break now, Copper. We'll come back from this break, and I'll tell you more about where we're headed with this. And then top of the hour, I got a call coming in from Justin Bogey, fiscal analyst with the Alabama Policy Institute. Going to talk about whether or not the RSA, the Retirement Systems of Alabama, has got any connections to this ESG stuff, and I hope not. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. We're back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Solid right. All right. Hey, listen, by the way, we're still in this number one of the Triple Dipper, ESG. ESG is DOA as far as I'm concerned. That's what I'm calling this number one on the Triple Dipper today. And folks, this stuff's legit, man. This is not, please don't think this is that kind of thing that's, oh, it's hidden in the background. It's that little thing that only people who have industry knowledge understand. And it's not, no, go look it up. I'm just telling you. ESG scores, most of these major corporations, they're bragging about it because they feel like they have to, because they get doxxed otherwise. They get maligned sometimes by their own woke banks. The investment banks now are also beginning to really sort of inflict the pain on those companies that are not ESG friendly, if you know what I mean. Need that line of credit extended? We may have to reconsider this because it's not about your profitability now. It's about whether or not your ESG score is high enough. That is not the way the free market works. Now, I am not a rocket surgeon. I did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, but I can tell you right now, that's not the Economics 101 at all. That is not the way it works. And the idea that we're going to wind up seeing the world economy retooled over the notions of someone who is subjectively is rating companies based upon whether they are considered to be environmentally friendly enough to Green New Deal style policies, or whether or not they are into social justice and extending, truth into different areas that truth is really not to be found, or that they're going to wind up being governmental enough, meaning that they're overextending themselves. Private companies have no business trying to write public policy. It's one thing to lobby. It's another one to say, government, you need to do things this way from now on, or we're going to make sure that we make it painful for you. Just like Disney down in Florida. What you're looking at with Disney in Florida is a company that forgot themselves. They don't know where they are anymore. They've forgotten that their purpose in life is to entertain and provide a service, and in many ways to provide products. Now they're all about wanting to make sure that the transgender activist agenda understands that they stand with them on the idea of grooming kindergartners because that's important. And listen, that's not what Disney is supposed to be for. So why? Anyway, the bottom line is this. ESG scores are real. ESG scores are real. And ESG needs to get out of the way. Well, one of the problems we got right now, too, is you may not realize it, but in some places, taxpayer dollars are being used in ESG ways. And how can I say that? Well, I've got a story here from reason.org. That's two very highbrow sources I've had. Harvard Business Review followed by reason.org. But listen, this one says, the title of it is, dated February of this year, public pension plans need to consider the risks and the drawbacks of environmental, social, and governance investing. What that basically means is some of the massive portfolios managed by, I don't know for a fact. We're going to have somebody on in a few minutes that will tell us. But like, say, for instance, with the retirement systems of Alabama, which handles both the ERS and TRS systems, the employees' retirement system and the teachers' retirement system, two different funds, a total of like $52 billion in assets just in Alabama's retirement systems alone. If they are into ESG investing, are they really doing the best they can then for our tax-paying state employees? Well, the reason.org article I've got right here points out the goals of ethical investing are easier to enunciate than to accomplish, and while it is attractive to think that public have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. Shareholders can even bring a lawsuit against a company if it is found to be something that is literally detrimental to the shareholders' interest. It's called a shareholders' derivative action. It means that the company, the board, if you will, has taken action that has benefited the company in its own ways without benefiting the shareholders. But that's not the way it works. They have a fiduciary obligation to their shareholders. And ESG scores, they should be DOA because those do not equate to profitability. All right, coming up next, we got my friend Justin Bogey, fiscal analyst at Alabama Policy Institute, to wrap this discussion up with us. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. All right, hour two, Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live from the Rightside studio. Local, state, national, we got it all. All right, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Hey, going to the phones right now, bringing on somebody who I have been able to work with at the Alabama Policy Institute, does an amazing job. Justin Bogey, formerly with the Heritage Foundation, who also spent some time working in D.C. and worked for the Legislative Fiscal Office in Montgomery. He knows where all the fiscal money bones are buried. I'm pleased to bring him back on. Justin Bogey, how you doing today, man? Well, glad to have you, man. Thanks for making some time. So I just unpacked for the last 30 or 40 minutes here ESG scores and ESG rankings and ESG investment portfolios and basically how, aside from profitability, there's this new move to just go ahead and see how environmentally woke or social justice woke that a company can get, and somehow or another that determines they're a good company. My concern is, I saw an article, I think I sent you a copy of it, that there are some public pension plans that are dabbling in this. And I wonder, you knowing all the ins and outs of Alabama's, fiscal situations, are you seeing that in the RSA, the Retirement Systems of Alabama, at all? Uh, yeah. Wow. So, okay, that's now you just nailed something though on the federal side, the TSP. That's I mean, I got a ton of listeners like at Redstone Arsenal in federal service in and around Redstone and other facilities that I'm sure take part in the thrift savings plan under the federal government's retirement system. So you're saying that they've got an entire new wing of that that's about to open up that's ESG related. Wow. Okay, which basically means those are taxpayers, and when the system gets propped up or there's a match, in the plan or whatever else, those are taxpayer dollars coming into that plan too, right? Well, so let me ask you this, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not now because I'm kind of springing this on you, but is this something that a state legislature is able to say we will not participate? Can the state legislature give Dr. Bronner and RSA directives that you will not participate on ESG bases alone? I would hope so. I mean, I'm looking at an article right now from Insurance Journal that literally says, it's Dr. Bronner even saying it. It's been a tough year in the RSA. I mean, they manage two plans right now: the ERS and the TRS, Employees Retirement System, and then the Teachers Retirement System. $52 billion in total assets under management, and something like 52,000 active and retired state employees, and the last thing and I remember too when I was in the legislature, and I don't know where it is right now in the current budget process, but they have a mandated 8% annual return. Mandated means if they don't make 8% because the market is bad, the legislature has to prop it up with appropriated funds, correct? Yes. It just boggles the mind, man. And I look at this and think, okay, here we are. We have all these folks who have a defined benefit plan. They expect to have a pension when they reach retirement. The system becomes underfunded or overwhelmed, and yet we're looking at some of these pension plans, and not necessarily Alabama. So I can't label it that way. You said it's kind of obscure. We can speculate, but it's not known. But the reality is, I just finished reading before you came on the air through a Harvard Business Journal review of ESG plans, and they don't fare well. And they literally, ESG scores have nothing to do with profitability. And yet they have a fiduciary obligation to manage things in terms of profitability. Oh, yeah. Mm. Well, I can't get past this. I mean, it's maddening to me that, like, Larry Fink, the guy who runs BlackRock, the largest investment fund in the world, or one of, is the one advocating for this, along with Schwab from the World Economic Forum. I mean, it's a globalist kind of thing, but I look at it and think, where does this make sense? I mean, why is this a good idea? I understand if the company wants to do it, fine. But being told they have to get a score, and somehow or another that equates to, I don't know, success, when the reality is their goal in life is to be profitable on behalf of their shareholders or their plan participants, period. That's it. Yeah. No, no doubt. Well, closing thoughts from you, just even if it's just personal speculation, can we put an end to this? Is it going to peter out when Biden finally leaves office, or is it going to be something that sticks? Well, and I'm hoping. I mean, I know that we have a number of state legislators who listen to the show. They text me periodically during the show or afterwards, and I'm hoping that some of them are hearing this and recognizing. I think it was Utah. Utah state legislature, I believe, did try to take action most recently on this very issue, and I hope that the state legislature will consider here disallowing participation on the basis of ESG by the RSA. I think that's a. I've been calling this whole section I'm doing here that ESG should be DOA. Well, yeah, absolutely. All right, Justin Bogey, as always, thanks so much for providing good color commentary. Fiscal analyst for the Alabama Policy Institute, and we appreciate your time today. All right. All right, let's go ahead and move to a break right now. We'll do that. We'll come back. I ran a little long with Justin, so we'll have a short segment coming back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Going to go to number 2 in the Triple Dipper. It's time to move on. Live free or die. That's what I'm calling it. What's going on with gun rights? Aren't we We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Copper, I did it. I did it right. I did it right off the bat. Okay, hey, listen. I'm going to number 2 on the Triple Dipper. ESG was DOA was the first one. Now we're moving to live free or die. Live free or die. There's the old Second Amendment battle cry, right? Live free or die. Well, so here's the deal. You know, we just had most recent Supreme Court action that overturned a case that had been ongoing for years out of New York. That particular case, referred to as, I think it was New York Rifle and Pistol Club versus New York. Basically, it determined states do not have a right to abridge the Second Amendment. It literally dealt with an issue of whether or not a concealed carry permit holder in the state of New York had to justify, if you will, their need for a concealed carry permit. Well, I mean, okay, because I want one. Self-defense was not considered to be a viable enough reason. You had to justify the actual danger that you felt, and it was ridiculous. Well, the Supreme Court came back and smacked it down. And yet what we're seeing is since that time, states are beginning to take action. You might reckon when I say that, liberal states are beginning to take action, trying to go back and recoup the losses they faced. Now, they're going to, in my opinion, it's like striving after wind here. They're literally going after something that the Supreme Court said that they can't do, but they're going to do it anyway because that's what they do. Well, let me just remind you of something, though. As we talk about the Second Amendment, I love this story. I'm looking at a story. This one's from 2018. It's the most recent version I could find. The Daily Caller. Daily Caller, headline, one of Georgia's safest cities requires its citizens to own a gun. But CNN doesn't know why crime is so low. Okay, so if you're not familiar, Kennesaw, Georgia. How many of y'all been to Kennesaw? I have, certainly. Got friends that lived over that way. Kennesaw, Georgia. In 1982, that'd be the year before I graduated high school. I just dated myself. When it comes to America's response to gun crime, it says one Georgia town has been thinking outside the box since 1982 when its leaders passed a law requiring its citizens to own a firearm. You heard me. All of our folks will have a firearm, period. So here's the deal. The Kennesaw, Georgia law actually states, this is the way it is, quote, every head of household residing in the city limits is required to maintain a firearm. And the Police Lieutenant Craig Graydon, who was interviewed for this particular article, he says this 30-year law actually was meant to be, a crime deterrent. Well, guess what? As far as would-be criminals, it says looking for an easy mark, judging by the crime statistics, according to this article from the Daily Caller, crime appears to have bypassed Kennesaw and moved on to easier targets. And even CNN was recently forced to admit that Kennesaw, a 33,000-strong community, has had only one murder in the last 6 years and a violent crime rate below 2%. Well, when you know that you got a good solid chance of getting shot because the city ordinance is so gun-friendly that it says every household will have, and I don't know if they enforce it. I don't think they go around and say, do you have your gun? Knocking on the door, ma'am, I'm with the gun check police. We want to make sure you actually have your firearm. Do you have your firearm? They're not doing that. And I'm sure that there are anti-gun people in Kennesaw. But by and large, what you're looking at here, though, is probably a community that is far more prolific in terms of gun ownership than any other around. Legal gun owners who are literally told by their town council, you're going to own a firearm. You are going to own a firearm. And hey, criminals, be aware, they all own a firearm. But CNN, according to the article Daily Caller, says, but it's unclear whether that has anything to do with the gun law, the crime statistics. I got news. It does. And there was also all this talk back in the 80s, and I remember this. I remember when it was passed. Because again, apparently I'm old. But I remember when this was passed, and it was a big deal. There was all this talk about it being the Wild West. Well, guess what? It's not. It's a bedroom community of Atlanta. It's a place people want to live. And it's got a very low crime rate. So we're going to talk about some things that other states are trying to do. Live free or die. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Glad you are with us. Time now, 3:35 p.m. If you want to call in, by the way, we'd love to have you call. 866-494-9866. Feel free. 866-494-9866. So far, we've talked about the woke corporations using ESG scores, and by the way, some of that's bleeding into retirement portfolios, even in public pensions. ESG scores, what do you think? And then right now, I'm in the second part of the Triple Dipper, live free or die. Live free or die. I'm talking about the Second Amendment. You want to call in and weigh in, tell me what you think. 866-494-9866. We'll take those calls. I got the first article here in my stack of stuff. I just told you about Kennesaw, by the way. I love that story. 1982, the city of Kennesaw, just north of Atlanta, passed a law, a city ordinance, if you will, that actually says that you're going to own a gun. The head of every household will maintain a usable firearm, according to the town council of Kennesaw. Awesome. Well, crime rate is below 2% for violent crime in Kennesaw. They haven't had a murder in 6 years. And I take it back, one murder in 6 years in a town of 33,000 population. Okay, what's that tell you? I don't know. Maybe responsible gun ownership actually deters crime. Go figure. Story from the Coleman Times, right here in the listening area. Who knew the Coleman Times was quite so liberal? I did not know this. Coleman Times, here's the article dated July 9th, so just Saturday? Amid recurrent gun violence, Alabama and Georgia haven't tightened gun laws in decades. Asia Ashley is the reporter who wrote this. Where has she been? Asa Ashley, we just passed one of the few in the nation permitless gun carry bills in the state of Alabama. We just passed it. We're an open carry state, and you're not required to have a permit to concealed carry in Alabama. But she's going to write an article saying, we haven't tightened our gun laws in decades. No! Have you not caught the trend? Even when Democrats controlled the state house, they didn't tighten the gun laws. Why? It's Alabama. I mean, this is a gun-friendly state. We believe in our Second Amendment rights. We may fuss about some things, but we typically, across in a bipartisan way, don't fuss too much about gun control, because gun control, bad. All right, listen. Asia actually writes this thing in Coleman Times, and the first thing she does is go back and start talking about, like, pre-Civil War laws that were in place that prevented black people from owning guns. What does that got to do with where we are today? Nothing. It just gave her the ability to virtue signal some historical context that she found to be objectionable, which we all find to be objectionable, because it was objectionable, and that's why we did away with it. Go figure. All right. Then she goes and interviews a University of Alabama law professor who apparently struggles to understand the law. This particular law professor's name is Frederick Vars, a law professor at the University of Alabama who has apparently written numbers of journals and books about gun control and violence. He points out, I know much has been written about a kind of connection to making sure that slaves don't get guns. Why are we talking about slaves having guns, Coleman Times? Because we don't have slaves. We abolished slavery. We don't have any laws that say that your racial demographics are what determines whether you're allowed to have a gun. Just saying, why are we doing this? Anyway, they went on to waste some time and then finally got down to the point. The final point here is that the law professor, Vars, says, I think historically the Supreme Court, up until the 2018 Heller decision, said that the Second Amendment was not intended to include an individual's right to bear arms apart from militia service. No, it didn't. No, it did not. It has been well settled through jurisprudence for a number of years that the well-regulated militia did not mean you had to be in a militia to own a gun. That is ridiculous. This is the most ridiculous. Coleman Times, what are you doing writing this article? Anyway, the law professor goes on to say, I think we may be getting further away from the original intent as I understand it, but then again, I'm not a historian. No, but you are a law professor, and you're not opining about history. You're opining about Supreme Court rulings. And since you're a law professor, I would think that you could handle that. I'm not a rocket surgeon, but I see those two things as being, important. Law professor, the law. Anyway, it goes on to talk about the fact, though, that in Georgia and Alabama, background checks are required for licensed dealers, but not for private sales. True. This year, Georgia, Alabama, and other states approved bills allowing gun owners to carry without a permit. True. 2017, the Georgia legislature passed what's called the campus carry law, allowing concealed handguns to be carried on college campuses. True. I'm not sure what the point of this article is, except to say that we are Second Amendment friendly here in the Southeast. So Coleman Times wasted a lot of time getting down to the point on page 4 of the entire article where it says, gun reform proposals could be tough to pass in Republican-leaning states. Well, there's a news flash. Coleman Times has noticed that it's hard to have gun control legislation pass in conservative-leaning states. There you go. They also point out, though, that gun sales went through the roof in 2020, and they attributed it in part to the COVID-19 pandemic and protests. I got news. Nobody bought a gun because they were scared of COVID. However, gun sales went through the roof when Biden got elected and when protests were ripping our country up and people were scared and they needed something for self-defense. That's what happened. So that being said, let's talk about some of the things that are happening that are trying to limit the ability of people to exercise their Second Amendment rights. Well, first of all, President Biden can't control himself. Now, actually, he is one of the people who advocated for the assault weapons ban back in the 90s. Still proud of it. Got it passed. Ooh, 1994. Corn Pop was trying to come at me with a chain. Corn Pop's a tough dude. If you're not familiar, go look up Corn Pop Joe Biden. You'll find the story. Anyway, he did pass or help pass, led the charge, if you will, for the assault weapons ban, which was repealed in, 2002, I believe, because it was ineffectual. I got news. If something had been passed that was doing what the people who got it passed wanted done, and they were still in the majority, it would not have been repealed. But it had a sunset provision on it, and it did not meet the marks. It did not act as advertised. It did not curb crime. And yet, Joe Biden, article in the Epoch Times, dated July 11th, that would be yesterday. Quote, Biden says he's determined to renew the assault weapons ban. Good luck. My AR is my AR. I like my AR. President Joe Biden on Monday said he wants to implement a new ban on assault weapons as he touted the Safer Communities Act that was passed at the White House, or passed in Congress while he was at the White House. He says, we're living in a country awash in weapons of war. What is the rationale for these weapons outside of war zones? Assault weapons need to be banned. First of all, what's an assault weapon? If someone was recently stabbed, was it an assault knife? How about the guy in Waukesha who ran his car through a parade of onlookers? Was that an assault car? But they like to give titles to things. Anyway, he goes on to say, I led the fight in 1994 under pressure from the National Rifle Association of the gun manufacturers and others. That ban was lifted in 2004. Okay, it was 2004. Anyway, on Monday, he also said he wants to ban high-capacity magazines. Now listen, those of you that don't know me from the Birmingham audience yet, the military's been a huge part of my life. Spent 30 years serving as a infantry officer, airborne and Ranger qualified. I can tell you right now, you can reduce the number of rounds in a magazine. All you got to do is be faster at changing your magazines. That does nothing to deter crime. Nothing. All it does is make you feel good. All it does is make liberals feel like they did something. It's a virtue signaling thing. We're going to reduce the amount of bullets in your magazine. Okay, I'll buy more magazines. What does that do? Nothing. Do you know how quickly I can change out a magazine? Seconds. 30-round magazine, 20-round magazine, and oh, by the way, they don't make 10-round magazines for an AR-15. The AR platform, what are you going to do? You're going to take a 30-round magazine, have to put a plug in it, I guess, to create a 10-round magazine, but then when you look at it, how can you tell? This is ridiculous. Last month, 15 Republican senators joined all Democrats to pass the Safer Communities Act, which includes federal funding to enforce red flag laws, implements more stringent background checks, and makes obtaining guns through straw purchases a federal offense. Okay, there's so many things that are undefined in there that this federal law is going to wind up being unworkable. And a red flag law, by the way, a red flag law has multiple violations of constitutional rights because your right to due process is removed by anyone, any state, who puts in place a law that says that because someone thinks something about you, not conviction, no form of adjudication, because someone has alleged something or thought something about you, it somehow removes your Second Amendment rights. Well, apparently that means it also removes your due process rights, which is not right. And I'm going to tell you right now, this ain't going to fly in the long run. But the left is never going to be appeased. The Washington Examiner, dated yesterday also. Parkland father heckles Biden during a White House gun violence event. Now, I will go ahead and caveat this by saying I recognize that we're looking at someone who is an activist because of a loss he's experienced. So Manuel Oliver is the father of a Parkland shooting victim. His son, who I believe the name is pronounced Joaquin, was one of the kids that was killed in the Parkland shootings. And so this father is now an activist for gun control. I get it. He has a passion. I don't feel any inhibition about saying he is welcome to his opinion. But what I am saying is, in this particular case, they will never be satisfied. So here we have Biden giving a speech at the, on the lawn of the White House yesterday. And this Parkland father, who is a gun control activist, literally stood up in the middle of it and interrupted the president of the United States to holler that he's not doing enough. Because, see, and he's not the only one that feels that way. The left believes that until they have gotten your guns out of your hands, that not enough is being done. And that's where we are. So right now, this bipartisan Safer Communities Act with red flag laws, closing the boyfriend loophole, it's a farce. And it's dangerous because what it's doing is it's creating an opportunity for the diminishing value, if you will, in the public eye, in the public arena, for civil liberties, for actual constitutionally bound rights. Those are not supposed to be malleable. Those are not supposed to be bendable at will. They cannot be abridged with impunity. There is a strict construction upon review by the Supreme Court when it comes to constitutionality. And the idea that states can just abridge those when they feel like it is antithetical not just to common sense, it's antithetical to good judicial sense. When we come back from this break, I'm going to tell you, there's a number of states, though, that have already gone kind of off the deep end. Like, I'm saying, they're checking your social media. They're literally limiting the size of your magazines. One of them's even limiting the amount of ammunition you can buy. What do they do if you're a reloader at home? I don't know. They don't know either. Hang tight. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. Just plain right. Hey, I got a caller on line 4. Hey, it's Jeff from Indiana, line 4. Jeff, how you doing today, bud? Oh, no. Did I lose Jeff? Copper, did we lose him? Oh, shoot. Rats. Well, Jeff's on the road. He'll call back in a few minutes. Jeff Rowe, give a call back if you can. I love talking to Jeff. Anyway, all right, folks, I'm in number 2 of the Triple Dipper. By the way, you want to call in? We'll take calls, 866-494-9866. Got a few more minutes here on the show out of the... Oh, you got him back, Copper? Go highlight him if you're good to go. We got Jeff on line 5 now? All right, let's try it again. Jeff from Indiana. My brother, how you doing? Good. What's on your mind, buddy? Silly me. I don't know what I was thinking, Jeff Rowe. I mean, so you know, it's crazy how they just pick and choose what they want to enforce to, isn't it? Oh, Lord, yeah. I mean, you got people right now for the January 6th thing that not even sure why they're in jail. They've been incarcerated for a year, detained without, good due process or probable cause. And yet Hunter Biden, how many laws has he broken? And we actually have the video to prove it, and it just keeps on going. Let's hope it doesn't come down to that. But the reality is that the founding fathers who wrote that Second Amendment, along with the other portions of the Bill of Rights, they had just lived through tyranny, and that's why they wrote those things down for us and passed them into law. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It takes all of us, and it takes, by the way, all of us having our rights enforced. And I appreciate you calling, Jeff. As always, man, great commentary, and you be safe on the road. All right, listen. We are coming up on the end of this particular segment. I ran a little long before, so we got a short segment here. But I got to tell you, so here's the way it's going to work. If you didn't already know, Birmingham audience, you've got us from 2 to 4. We're on it's a 3-hour show, but it's 2 hours right now in Birmingham. So just understand this: as we exit at 4 o'clock from Birmingham, we are still live in Huntsville for another hour. And Rightside Radio is just proud to be a part of the Birmingham market. Just glad to be joined in the Crawford Media Group's family. We have now spent a year with Cumulus Broadcasting at 770 AM and 92.5 FM out of Huntsville, and now proud to also be with Crawford Media in addition to Cumulus on WXJC 101.1 FM and WYDE 850 AM out of the Birmingham market. But when I say the market, understand that, I mean, between the two stations, or actually 4 stations that we're with, the broadcast range is pretty epic. I mean, we've got a combined 200,000 plus watts of broadcast capability that is blasting Rightside Radio across North Alabama right now. And it's pretty cool. If you look at it, if you look at a map, we're literally going from about Clanton to the Tennessee line, and we're going from Tuscaloosa over to Gadsden, and we got parts of Tennessee, Georgia, and Mississippi just for good measure. I'm just saying, Rightside Radio blanketing the northern half of the state. All right, Huntsville, you stay tuned. We'll be right back. Birmingham, we'll be back tomorrow. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. More to come. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams live from the Rightside studio. Time now 4:06 p.m. and we are still solid, conservative, and just plain right. Hey, I'm going to continue on with number 2 of the Triple Dipper. Before I do that, though, I got to tell you, ZLA Solutions, these folks are friends of mine. You hear them advertised all the time on the show. They have been with us since this show began. And folks, I'm telling you, if you're looking for a job, ZLA Solutions, they're the ones to talk to. ZLA Solutions at their website, zlausa.com. They've got jobs posted all over North Alabama. It's worth checking out because ZLA Solutions is epic good at getting the job and the person matched up. So if you're looking for a job personally, sure, check out their website, zlausa.com. Good paying jobs all over North Alabama. But if you're an employer looking to fill out the ranks of your workforce, you need a whole crew. You need a large staff. It could be temp or direct hire. Listen, they can do all the recruiting, the background checks, the drug testing if necessary. They can do it blue collar, white collar, no collar. It don't matter. ZLA Solutions, they love to say at ZLA, we don't make it. We just make it better because that's their goal in life is to help you make your business better. They do a lot of things, but their bread and butter, man, staffing. They can get you the people you need. ZLA Solutions at zlausa.com. All right, listen, I am staying with number 2 of the Triple Dipper, Live Free or Die. You want to call in and talk about it? 866-494-9866. Love to hear your thoughts on this. So the Supreme Court, according to Politico actually went to Politico. The Supreme Court, according to Politico, a story on July 8th, that'd be what, last Friday? Supreme Court knocked back the blue states on gun restrictions. Now they're seeing how far they can step forward. This tells you everything you want to know about the article, because it does confirm the Supreme Court took a whacking to liberal policies, liberal laws on gun ownership, gun rights, the Second Amendment, the New York case of New York Rifle and Pistol Club versus New York became a major win for pro-Second Amendment rights. And yet now what's happening is blue states, according to the article by Politico, blue states are testing the limits of gun restrictions under a conservative Supreme Court. This article, by the way, written now since the decision in the New York case. It says, moments after the justices nullified concealed carry laws in New York, lawmakers and governors in states with similar rules rushed to fortify their restrictions in the face of the court decision. Rushed. Rushed is right. I mean, how do you even convene the legislature to do this kind of stuff that quickly? Well, their attempts to thread the needle, it says, or legal needle, previewed what it will likely be a years-long effort to defend and extend firearm rules under the court's sweeping new Second Amendment test. Okay, here's the deal. This is going to be a fight. It's going to be a battle royal, all right? Gun rights groups, according to Politico, have already signaled they will challenge the new concealed carry laws being foisted upon certain states in court. A National Rifle Association spokesperson said in a statement that, quote, anti-gun governors and their allies in the state legislature stand in open defiance of the nation's highest court and vowed to, quote, fight for law-abiding gun owners and ensure their rights are restored, as is called for under this landmark decision. So here's the deal. What are they doing? And what are they not doing? Like, for instance, here's one, how awkward. And by the way, I'm loving the fact that every once in a while, CNN is bowing up and trying to be a news organization again. Did I just say that? Yes, I did. Right now, up on the big screens, I got two big screen TVs going up in the new studio here. I got Fox on the right and CNN on the left, and occasionally when they're reporting the same story, it's amazing to look at the difference in the way the bylines at the bottom read. You know, one is saying like insurrection, investigation. The other one's saying investigation about the riot. You know, just stuff like that. Well, CNN, every once in a while though, they do kind of act like a news organization. So here's the story. Newsbuster.org, dated July 10th. That would be Sunday. Tapper, that's Jake Tapper of CNN. Tapper confronts Illinois governor on why he ignores Chicago shootings. Oh, here we go. So, we just had that horrible situation with the Highland Park shooting at the 4th of July celebrations. But what's interesting is the number of regular shootings that occur in Chicago exceed the death toll of that mass casualty event on a regular basis. CNN State of the Union host Jake Tapper confronted Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker on a common theme that even casual observers of leftist politicians and media have noticed. That is, they always focus on tragic one-time incidents like mass shootings, but they ignore the daily shootings in Chicago, which cause more deaths on a weekly basis than mass shootings. Yeah, I mean, no kidding. And so here they are having an interview, and Pritzker is probably thinking, because Pritzker's a liberal, he's probably thinking, I'm with Jake Tapper. This is going to go well. He's on my side. Well, Jake Tapper just literally asked him, what do you say to any parents who are asking why the Highland Park shooting is getting so much more attention than the gun violence facing residents in Chicago, particularly northern neighborhoods in Chicago, every single day? And Pritzker denied. He went on to deny that he's, quote, giving more attention to one than the other. He deflected, it says, by claiming much of what we've done in our budget over the last 6 months for this current fiscal year has put money into programs that serve black and brown communities throughout Chicago. Like, who asked him about racial demographics? Nobody. But he had to go there because it shows his liberal bona fides. Well, you know what? It turns out more people died in random shootings in Chicago in one weekend than died in that mass shooting in Highland Park. And that happens, though, frequently. Frequently. It is not uncommon to get to a Monday morning and find out that 38 people were shot. I got to be honest with you. When I spent 2004 in Baghdad, we didn't have 38 people shot in a weekend very often in the war zone. And yet Chicago, just Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, Governor Pritzker, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about the fact that the restrictive gun control laws they have in place right now are doing nothing to curb violence. Nothing. You know why? Because criminals know if the law-abiding citizens don't have a gun, that they are not going to have to face somebody on the opposite end of a barrel. They know that. Unlike Kennesaw, Georgia, which has a town ordinance that says you will have a gun. You just will. And it'll be a working gun. And you'll know how to use it. And, oh, by the way, their crime rate is violent crime below 2% for a city of 33,000 on the outskirts of Atlanta. Kennesaw, Georgia, doing pretty good. Well, in spite of all this, so there's things they're not doing. They're not addressing the issues. And some of them are doing, exactly the opposite. They're going after it, man. They're stepping out. They're gonna go after that nasty NRA, that silly Second Amendment. Everybody knows you have to be in a militia to have a gun. No. Anyway, WBUR, a local channel in Rhode Island, reports on June 22nd, just 3 weeks ago? Rhode Island governor signs 3 gun control bills into law. Well, this is special. Rhode Island's governor signed 3 firearms bills into law on Tuesday that included a ban on magazines holding more than 10 rounds. Okay. Calling it a response to a national crisis that has taken too many lives because it's the magazines that do it. All right. So it doesn't say whether this means, okay. Hey, Boomer, grab the mic. So I'm just curious. 10-round magazine. There's nothing in here that says whether it's a pistol or a long gun. How many long guns have you seen with 10-round magazines? How many 10-round magazines have you seen? Do you have any 10-round magazines? Do they exist?
I have not. I don't have any. I'll tell you that.
You're a gun guy.
Yeah.
You got to talk into the microphone, bud. You can't turn around and talk to that. But the reality is 10-round magazines. If you can change a magazine, if you can change a 30-round magazine in 3 to 4 seconds, don't you think you can change a 10-round magazine in 3 to 4 seconds?
Absolutely.
So the end result of this is nada.
Nada.
This is silliness. This is virtue signaling. Is what
Absolutely.
This is. All right. So, okay. All right. Here's 2 gun guys sitting in the same room. Neither one of us know where you can find a 10-round magazine. But they're gonna say you got to have a 10-round magazine. Okay, I guess the 10-round gun manufacturers are about to go into big time in Rhode Island. Anyway, it says the bill aims to restore, to restore order, I guess, to limit crime. And here's the quote from the governor: No, I'm sorry. This is a quote from a volunteer leader with a Rhode Island chapter. Oh, this is an activist. Okay, let me back up. The high-capacity magazine limit is a life-saving bill. It was our top priority. It means nothing. 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 Some lawmakers, it says, had sought to exempt high-capacity magazines that Rhode Islanders may have already owned prior to the ban, but that proposal failed. So basically, if you're in possession of one and you've had it since it was legal, now it's not legal, now you can be in trouble. There's no grandfather clause here. The state Republican Party said the ban would turn law-abiding citizens into criminals. Yep, and guess who's going to wind up having the 30-round mags? The criminals. I'm thinking there's going to be a whole lot of boating accidents where suddenly, those magazines that you had are just, I don't know what happened to those.
Where'd they go?
They're in the Coosa River. I don't know what happened.
That just infuriates me.
It infuriates me, and it's obnoxious. All right, tell you what, Copper, go ahead and take us to a break. We'll do this break. We'll come back and wrap up some more. Live free or die. States are out there doing what they can to curb your Second Amendment rights. No. How about just no? Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, I got somebody that held on the phones through the last break, and I certainly appreciate their patience. So let me just jump online, too. Mark from Athens. Hey, Mark, Phil Williams, how you doing today? I'm good, man. I'm good. Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I look at it and think they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, they 10-round magazine, but I guarantee you most of them think that what they're talking about is any weapon that is magazine fed, meaning a clip or a magazine, sidearm or a long gun. And you're right. I have a Glock. I have a Glock 19 also. The only thing I have with something smaller than a 14-1 is the little Ruger 380 for concealed carry. Exactly. Well, I take it back. Mine's a single stack. Mine's a 6-1. It's a single stack 6-1 subcompact. But nonetheless, what we're saying is, good luck finding these. Well, so what you just called me a tiny hand man is what you just did. No. But what do you think, though, Mark? I mean, I think this is virtue signaling. I mean, I don't see any effective means of curbing crime with these ridiculous magazine laws. Do you? Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, no doubt. You don't, and they're holding it up gang style and pointing it sideways, But well, I totally agree with you. I, I totally agree with you, Mark. And in a minute when I get back on my segment here, I've also got one state law that's going after the ammunition and trying to regulate ammunition and keep their ammunition registry going. Good luck with that. But they're going to keep trying, and we're going to have to keep fighting. That's all there is to it. Bottom line, if it's worth defending, it's worth defending. But hey, Mark, thanks for the call, bud. Appreciate you as always. You have a great day, bud. All right, so yeah, he is right. He is absolutely right. You're not going to find you're not going to find that this is going to be a meaningful effort on the part of liberals to fight crime. What it is a virtue signaling issue. It's a way for them to poke at the NRA and people who believe in the Second Amendment. It's their way of saying to their constituents, "I did something. I did it. I did something." But what did you do? Nothing. A big fat hairy nothing. That's what you did. They can only use a 10-round magazine. What's a magazine? Does it go in a pistol? Does it go in a long gun? What are you talking about? Well, it's only got 10 bullets. Okay. So if I chamber one and then put the 10-round magazine, I'm carrying 11. Am I breaking the law? What just happened? I don't know. I don't know. That's exactly. They don't know. They have no idea. Oh, Lord. Now I'm 10 and 1. That's 11. I know. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, I got more on this. This topic is deep, y'all. They're passing state laws and local ordinances in places that are absolutely not designed with your best interest at heart. They claim they are, but they're not. We'll talk about it in a minute. Live free or die, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. All right, man. You too. Take care. Thank you. Yeah, good clarification. So, yeah, if you're listening in the Birmingham market, which you're not right now, that is a 2-hour broadcast of the first 2 hours of a 3-hour everyday show. We'll see. They had another show already in, and they can't just bump somebody. So I took the first 2 hours they would give us, and we have broadcast range now over half the state for the majority of the show. That being said, you want to call in? We got a few minutes. We'll take them. 866-494-9866. Crazy things happening. Just so you know, we are going to be live streaming the show here very soon. You can sit there and watch us. We talk about being in studio all the time. We actually have a studio, and you can see it. And so the cameras are going up. The technology is being bound together, and it's going to be crazy cool. And, unlike what it sounded like I said earlier in the show, I do wear pants and the fact that I'm going to be on video means I have to wear pants. So that's a good thing. Okay. Okay. Moving on real quick. Let's wrap up this section on the Triple Dipper, this whole deal with the Second Amendment. So I'm telling you right now, there are literally any number of states that are thinking they got it going on and they know how to get around the Supreme Court. Well, they don't. So first of all, New York's the one that got smacked down by the Supreme Court. Story on the NRA's website, nra.org. NRA story is, as court slams the door on one obnoxious gun law, New York enacts a fresh version. Yeah, so with, some political machinations and maneuverings going on, New York's old law, it made it a crime to possess a gun without a license outside your home and required that any applicant had to establish, to the satisfaction of some bureaucrat somewhere, that he or she had an extraordinary need for a carry license. They had to show proper cause. Well, that's literally what they call a may issue law. That's the kind of law that says, we may give you a permit, but we may not. Well, okay. They went ahead when they lost in the Supreme Court. According to this article, it says they just went ahead and doubled down. And so they have a new law. I mean, they didn't waste it. They put it in place, bada boom, bada bing. The new law eliminates the proper cause requirement, but now it expands what they call good moral character. It requires you to have an interview process. It requires you to go have a training certification. It requires you to have certain disclosure obligations like your social media for the last 3 years. The training is even a 16-hour training regimen. Can you imagine this? 2 hours of live fire training using a state-approved curriculum and an authorized instructor. Come on. I mean, so who pays for this, I wonder? How much is it going to cost? You're not allowed to have poll taxes that keep people from voting because they can't pay the poll tax. Well, what about this one? You're basically taxing them into oblivion on the ability to get a carry permit right after the Supreme Court says don't abridge. Well, they're abridging. How about this one? CalMatters.org, that's CAL. This is reporting on California, kind of like their version of AL.com. Woo. Anyway, CalMatters.org, dated July 11th, that would be yesterday. This week, Governor Gavin Newsom is poised to sign a bill on his desk that would create a, quote, standard of conduct for the gun industry. What? How does if y'all could see Boomer's face right now, hands in the air, trying to figure out what is going on. All right, so here's the deal. A standard of conduct for the gun industry and permit California residents or the state attorney general and local governments to also sue gun manufacturers for things they have nothing to do with. Once signed, it's almost certain to be hit with legal challenges, the article says. You think? On Friday, gun rights groups sued to block a California law banning firearm companies from advertising certain weapons to minors. How do you know minors are looking at it? I mean, what are they having, cartoon characters advertising guns? I don't think so. Are they advertising them in fruity flavors? I don't think so. How are they going to say minors are, anyway. The lawsuit is the latest chapter in a long-running feud between the gun industry and the Golden State over its strictest in the nation firearm laws. But the fight seems primed to escalate following last month's U.S. Supreme Court ruling. I would say so. And by the way, you cannot sue the manufacturer of a gun for something somebody did with the gun. Okay, if that's the case, then I want to know, is anybody suing The auto manufacturer that made the car that the guy drove through the parade not long ago that killed, like a dozen people? Is that the way we're going to go? Now, if there's a manufacturer's defect, that's different. Even Alabama has that. I think it's called the AEMLD, the Alabama's Extended Manufacturer's Liability Doctrine. Wow, there's a law school thing I just pulled out. I know, Boomer. Did I impress you? I just actually impressed myself. But anyway, the reality is, if a manufacturer has a defective product that flows into the stream of commerce and causes injury based upon that manufacturer's defect, then yes, the manufacturer deserves to be liable. But if indeed someone took it and misused it for other than what it was intended, how can a manufacturer then be liable? If that's the case, then every peanut butter manufacturer is going to be liable because a kid who has peanut butter allergies was exposed to it. It's not the manufacturer's responsibility to shepherd every person into a position of, compliance in some way. This is why we have these inane labels on everything that we do that some lawyer, I am one, some lawyer got involved and put a label out there. Hey, you know what? You better go ahead and put something on that iron that you iron the clothes with. It says don't iron naked because it can cause injury. I think you need to go ahead and make sure that you put something on there that says if you don't wear a seatbelt, it might not help you. Okay. How about this one? You got the baby seat. Make sure you remember that the baby has to be in the seat for it to be helpful. Okay. And then now we're going to have, and if somebody shoots you with a gun, the manufacturer is liable. Well, in California, that's called common sense. The rest of the world sees it as being ridiculous. But how about this one? New Jersey. Let me move on. NewJersey.gov. This would be basically the New Jersey Governor Murphy's website from his office. And I'm looking at it, and it took them how many pages? It's a 5-pager. It's a 5-page press release how proud they are on Governor Murphy signing sweeping gun safety package 3.0 to continue the fight against gun violence. 7 gun safety reform bills. They always call it, by the way, here it is. It's a sweeping common sense gun package. Why is it always common sense? I'm sure Gavin Newsom thought his was common sense too. It does things like allows the Attorney General to bring causes of action for certain violations arising from the sale or marketing of firearms. That's one bill. It requires firearm owners who become New Jersey residents to obtain a firearm purchaser identification card if they're from out of state. It requires upgrades to certain crimes related to the manufacturing of firearms from 3rd degree to 2nd degree. That's a state criminal law issue related to the manufacturer, not the criminal, but the manufacturer. Another bill revises the definition of destructive device to include certain .50 caliber rifles. Okay, what are we doing here? How many people actually own a .50 caliber rifle? I mean, if you got a Barrett, cool. Let's go to the range. But I don't think many people have those. Good friend of mine does, but anyway. Here's another one. It revises here's one. Regulates the sale of handgun ammunition. There's the one I was telling Mark from Athens a moment ago. They've got a bill. They just passed into law. The governor signed it to regulate the sale of handgun ammunition and develop a system of electronic reporting of handgun ammunition sales. What does that mean? Is that like show your ID to buy a bullet and then, oh, by the way, give us your contact information and we enter it into the database and now the government knows when you're buying bullets? What are they going to do with reloaders? What if you're a reloader and you're at home and you're basically, putting 9mm brass in the press and making your own? What are they going to do then? I'll never forget when I was overseas once. Supply guy, the S4 for the unit, at the end of the entire deployment says, we got to turn in ammo. We're turning it in by lot number. And I said, that's not going to happen. Well, you've got, unless you were in a firefight, you're supposed to have the same amount of rounds. And I said, you're assuming we don't cross-pollinate our rounds. My team and the SF team that I was with, we cross-pollinated a lot of our gear. So you want it back by lot number, that's ridiculous. You cannot manage the sale on the civilian side either of ammunition. How about this one? Another bill requires training for the issuance of firearms. In other words, you have to go through a training course. It is on and on and on. Here's one requiring firearm retailers to sell micro-stamping enabled firearms upon determination of availability by the AG. Meaning they're going to require every sales point of sale to microstamp. I guess the serial number wasn't enough. I don't know. All I know is this, it's time for a break, and I cannot handle these state regulations on our Second Amendment rights any longer. Copper, take us to a break. All right, folks, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Live free or die. Second Amendment from my cold, dead fingers. We'll be right back. gave it because, the truth has to be known in order for their defense of specific performance to work. I think Elon Musk is chortling all the way to the bank right now. Like, I think that if you look at some of what, in fact, I think he even tweeted that. Now that I say that, I think he had a picture of himself laughing, and it says, "That's fine, I'll get it in court," or something like that. And it just, anyway, yeah, Elon Musk, you don't become the richest man in the world because you're a knucklehead. Well, I take it back. You can be a knucklehead, but you at the very least, you know how to work your way around having the right lawyers to do the right things for you. So, I'll be honest with you. Right now, knowing what we know in the public arena, I think that Elon Musk is probably in the catbird seat right now. That's what I'm thinking. So there, Copper, who doesn't like coffee. So there, Boomer, who likes to smell coffee but won't drink it. I don't understand either of you people. This is not even a generational thing. You're both in different age demographics, and okay, what did you just say? You don't like any cake? How do you? That's not cake. Cheesecake is just pudding in with a crust.
I mean, cheesecake is really good, but it's kind of a poser cheese cake.
I don't, Copper, I'm concerned about you. You need a life coach, Copper. That's what I'm thinking. All right, folks. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Another great day here on the show. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. syndicated across the northern part of our state. Coming up next, you got the great one, Mark Levin, back here at 2. We'll see you then.